Muzan is the Demon King and main antagonist in Demon Slayer. He's the first of his kind, as well as the progenitor of all other demons in existence. Muzan is a cold-hearted, ruthless, intimidating, and exceptionally intelligent person. He sees no value in any humans he's encountered, and shows little value in his own subordinates. Rarely ever visually upset or happy, he appears completely monotonous and detached on most occasions, even when he's callously murdering his own subordinates. The only time he ever shows emotion are when his vision of perfection is moving forward, or when he has his subordinates completely submit to his will. However, behind the myriad of facades Muzan displays, and completely offsetting his insatiable ego and lust for perfection, Muzan is unbelievably cowardly. He always avoids conflict whenever possible, as evident in his encounter with Giyu Tomioka and Tanjiro Kamado. He states that the duo managing to survive should already be sufficient, and that they should just live to earn their wages and put a halt to the cycle of revenge. This trait also complements his manipulative nature, bending many demons to his will to do his bidding while he doesn't get his hands dirty. Muzan was born in Japan's Heian era, to a constant struggle to survive on account of his frailty. His heart stopped multiple times in his mother's womb, and when he first entered the world, he was deemed stillborn, having no pulse and not breathing. When he was taken to be cremated, he barely escaped death by releasing his first cries. As a young man, Muzan was diagnosed with a disease that would kill him before he reached the age of 20. The doctor treating Muzan gave him a special prototype medicine, but it appeared to have failed. Only after killing the doctor did he realize that the medicine was actually working and had helped him acquire a strong body and become a demon. However, he had to eat humans to survive, and the sun became his ultimate weakness. It was during this moment that he truly regretted killing the doctor before he could have finished his treatment with his blue spider lily medicine. Due to this, Muzan started to create more demons and planned to spread them all over the world, hoping that one of them would eventually find a way to overcome the sun, or at least help him on his quest to find the blue spider lily. Around the Oe era, Muzan found a young girl named Tamayo, who was afflicted with a disease that threatened her life. She encounters Muzan, and wishing to see her children grow up, allowed him to transform her. However, unused to her new body, she inadvertently kills her own family to survive, as well as another group of people. This decision haunted her to no end, and she became resentful and hateful of Muzan. But due to Muzan's immense power, she was unable to kill him. Muzan enslaved Tamayo, and she followed him around as a lowly servant. Sometime after, Muzan finds Michikatsu Tsugikuni, a marked demon slayer and user of the moon breathing style. Michikatsu wanted to become more powerful than his brother, and loathed the fact that his status of being marked meant that his life would soon end. Muzan issued him a compromise. He wished to have a breath-using demon, and in return, Michikatsu could live forever and perfect his skill. Michikatsu agreed, and Muzan gave him an extremely high concentration of his blood. Michikatsu emerged 3 days later, transformed, taking the name Kokushibo. Later, Muzan and Tamayo would encounter Yoriichi Tsugikuni, who was Michikatsu's younger twin brother and another demon slayer. The moment the two met, Yoriichi sensed Muzan's malice and anger, comparing him to boiling magma. Simultaneously, Muzan found nothing in Yoriichi that resembled something dangerous and didn't fear his opponent. Already satisfied at having Kokushibo as his subordinate, Muzan tried to kill Yoriichi without warning. However, Yoriichi was able to dodge the blows and discerned Muzan's weak spots: 7 hearts and 5 brains that moved freely around his body. Yoriichi then combined all of his forms into one strike and turned his blade bright red, enabling him to cut through all of Muzan's weaknesses and overpower him. For the first time in his life, Muzan became stunned. Unable to heal, he sat in a pool of his own blood and angrily stared at Yoriichi, ignoring his question on what he thought was the value of a life. When Yoriichi moved forward to kill him, Muzan used the remains of whatever power he had left and divided his body in a powerful burst. Though Yoriichi was able to destroy nearly all of the fragments, the pieces he missed escaped and allowed Muzan to regenerate again. Muzan was deeply scarred by this encounter, and with Kokushibo's assistance, the two slaughtered anyone who used sun breathing in the hopes of preventing another demon slayer that had the power to kill him. They were almost successfully able to exterminate sun breathing entirely. Greatly fearful of the man he considered the real demon, Muzan never directly confronted the demon slayers again, and instead sent demons to do his bidding for the most part. He remained fearful of Yoriichi even after his death. Muzan hears news of a massacre involving the violent deaths of 67 people. He traveled to the village before meeting the culprit, an 18-year-old boy named Hakuji. Muzan voiced his disappointment as he believed that a demon had committed the act, instead of a human. Hakuji threatened him, but was silenced by Muzan piercing his hand through his head. The Demon King then spoke of his plan to form a faction of 12 powerful demons and asked the young man if he was able to withstand the amount of blood he was given. Hakuji, broken by his loss and with nothing else left, didn't resist and became the demon Akaza. In time, Muzan eventually succeeded in creating his faction, which would eventually become known as the 12 Kizuki. He transformed multiple demons and gave them the chance to join his group, rewarding them with a larger share of his blood to make them more powerful. The demons were then split into two groups of 6, known as the Upper Moons and Lower Moons. The Uppers remained unchanged for centuries. The Lowers, on the other hand, constantly changed as they were frequently killed by the Demon Slayers, to Muzan's growing disappointment. During the Taisho era, Muzan was able to locate the Kamado family, who were the last keepers of the sun-breathing technique. When Tanjiro Kamado was away at town, Muzan attacked his family and proceeded to inject them with his blood, hoping that he could create a demon who could withstand the sun. However, he was disappointed when the family died from his blood's poison, leading him to believe that a sun-proof demon was not so easy after all. He left their home, seemingly unaware that there was a survivor, Nezuko Kamado, who later turned into a demon. First Mission Arc. Muzan is first mentioned when Sankonji Urokodaki tells Tanjiro Kamado that he's the enemy of the Kamado family, and that he might know how to turn Nezuko back into a human. Akasaka Arc. Traveling through a crowd in Akasaka, Tokyo with his family, Muzan is accosted by an angry Tanjiro. Muzan's daughter asks him who the young demon slayer was, and Muzan asks if there was something he wanted from him. His wife then approached them, asking if Tanjiro was somebody familiar to their family. Muzan denies this, suggesting that the boy had mistaken them for somebody else. Unnoticed, he then quickly slashes a passing man, turning him into a demon. During the commotion, he and his family leave, while Tanjiro is forced to tend to the demonified man. Afterwards, Muzan sends his family home in a carriage without him, declaring that he still had some work to do. He wanders through an alley, where a drunk man accidentally bumps into him. The man then mocks and insults him, saying that he doesn't like wealthy people like him. When the drunk man notes how pale his skin is, Muzan smashes him into a wall and proceeds to kill the man's older brother with a swift upwards kick. He then turns to the drunk man's cowering girlfriend and asks if he looks pale or close to death. Muzan answers his own question and tells her how he is infinitely close to perfection. He then drills his fingers into her forehead, pumping her with so much of his blood that her cells melt. Afterwards, he calls Susamaro and Yahaba and orders them to kill Tanjiro. Rehabilitation Training Arc. Since Muzan is able to discern the location of demons who he's given his blood to, he's seemingly capable of locating Nezuko at the Ubuyashiki estate. However, he's unaware that Tamayo had removed his curse from Nezuko, making him incapable of detecting her whereabouts. The lower ranks have a meeting, where Muzan appears in the form of a woman. He's very disappointed after Rui's defeat, so much so that he declares that he disbanded the lower ranks, and that he'd now lead only the upper ranks. He kills Kamanue after reading his mind after he thought disrespectful thoughts. He then kills Mukago for contradicting him. As Wakuraba tries to escape, Muzan decapitates him and renders him unable to regenerate. Rokuro tries to plead with his master and asks for more blood to prove himself. Seeing the demon as a failure, Muzan becomes incredibly angry and kills him for ordering his leader. Before killing Enmu, the last one, the demon states how much he enjoys making humans suffer and thanks Muzan for letting him be his final victim. Seeing potential in Enmu, Muzan gives him a high abundance of blood. Enmu almost dies from the new load of power but manages to survive. Muzan then gives him one last chance to prove that the lower ranks are not useless. Mugen Train Arc. Muzan leads another life among humans as a small boy named Toshikuni and pretends to have a skin condition which prevents him from stepping into the sun. After killing Ryojuro Rengoku, Akaza reports to Muzan and tells him of his victory. However, Muzan is not pleased enough by the death of the Hashira and instead shows anger that Akaza let the other present Demon Slayers get away, additionally berating him for not finding more information on the Blue Spider Lily. Entertainment District Arc. In the Entertainment District of Yoshiwara, Muzan visits Daki. He tells her how proud of her she is and that he hopes she'll become even crueler and stronger. He also lets her know about Nezuko and tasks her with killing her. After the upper 6th is defeated, Muzan has the other upper ranks meet in the Infinity Castle. He is standing on the ceiling and experimenting, trying to heal his sun weakness. Muzan tells them that he won't allow any failures such as Daki and Gyutaro. Muzan regrets putting so much confidence in her and wishes that Gyutaro had fought since the beginning. He then tells the demons there to serve him with even more suicidal devotion and states how he hates change. He believes that change only means decline, and since he didn't change for so long, he's practically perfect. He then sends Gyoku and Hantengu to destroy the Swordsmith Village before departing from the meeting. Swordsmith Village Arc. While in disguise as a small boy, Muzan feels through Hantengo that Nezuko was able to become a demon who overcame the sun, thus making his assault on the sun-breathing family a success. His excitement alerts his foster mother and maid, who he then immediately kills as he sets his mind on getting Nezuko. Hashira Training Arc. As Muzan prepares to battle the Demon Slayer Corps over Nezuko, he appoints Nakime as upper rank 4 and makes her more powerful. He uses her tracking skills to scout out the whereabouts of all Demon Slayers. He's quite impressed by her efforts and compliments her, as he knows that he's sure to find Nezuko and the Demon Slayer Corps leaders soon. Infinity Castle Arc. Muzan appears at the Ubuyashiki mansion and sees Kaguya. Kaguya tries to lecture Muzan and points out how the Hashira will never give up on trying to kill him. Muzan laughs and proceeds to attack Kaguya. However, before he can kill him, the mansion explodes, with Muzan caught in the middle. The explosion, which was enhanced by spike traps, manages to injure Muzan. Before he's able to regenerate fully, Tamayo appears and uses her blood demon art to keep him in place, while attempting to use a drug that can turn him human. Using this opportunity, Gyome Himejima appears and destroys Muzan's head. However, he's able to instantly regrow it. As all of the other Hashira join the fight, the Infinity Castle appears and sucks everyone inside and scatters them. Muzan claims that he'd slaughter them all the same night. As the Demon Slayers manage to beat the majority of the upper ranks and attempt to locate Muzan, several lower-ranked members are able to find his cocoon. Emerging from it, he proceeds to eviscerate all of the Demon Slayers in his proximity, as he tries to regain the stamina lost from his struggle against Tamayo. He takes her head and mocks her for being unable to kill him, ridiculing the drug that she designed as useless. Tamayo angrily demands that Muzan return her family to her, to which Muzan replies that she should join them on the other side, crushing her head, which Yushiro senses. Muzan then further proceeds to slaughter Demon Slayers and reaffirms his vow to kill all of them. Through Nakime's ability, Muzan is placed face to face with Tanjiro and Giyu. Comparing himself to a great calamity, he states that it's impossible for humans to take revenge on natural disasters like wind, rain, volcanic eruptions, or earthquakes that take the lives of dear ones. He claims that fighting him amounts to the same type of folly. He thus concludes that the Demon Slayers fight him because they're a group of deviants, and that he's tired of dealing with them, and is the only one who actually wants to truly put an end to the fight. An enraged Tanjiro claims that Muzan shouldn't have even been allowed to exist. A battle then ensues, with Muzan extending his arms into long-bladed whips, keeping Giyu and Tanjiro at bay, as the latter are infuriated by Muzan's inhumanity. Tanjiro navigates between Muzan's strikes and attempts to infiltrate, but is ultimately unsuccessful and slashed near his eye. Giyu pulls Tanjiro away, reminding him that Muzan's power is above any of the upper demons. Muzan wonders if they can even defeat him with just 3 Hashira, as he declares that Mitsuri and Obanai were killed by Nakime. Muzan then performs more sweeps that Tanjiro can hardly avoid due to his injured eye, and he stumbles. Before Muzan can kill Tanjiro, Mitsuri appears, smashing the walls and attacking Muzan with her love-breathing 6th form, cat-legged Winds of Love, but is unable to inflict any damage on Muzan, much to her frustration. Obanai also appears, revealing both Hashira to be alive. An angered Muzan demands explanations from Nakime, only to learn that Yushiro had used his own blood demon art to take control of Nakime, and that he wants to force Muzan out of the Infinity Castle. Further angered by the opposition, Muzan tries to wrestle control of the castle back from Yashiro as he tries to absorb his cells through Nakime. However, an attack from Giyu and Obanai force Muzan to be defensive, allowing Yushiro to win control. So, Muzan then remotely detonates Nakime, crushing her head, causing the castle to collapse. Sunrise Countdown Arc. Now at a city, the Demon Slayers are told to stall Muzan for an hour and a half until sunrise. A furious Muzan, now with whips from his spine, emerges from debris and dares them to try, wildly swinging his limbs. Muzan and the Hashira exchange blows. Muzan notices that the Demon Slayers, with their marks activated, can resist the effect of his demonic blood. Then, as Muzan tries to land a killing blow on Mitsuri, Guillaume saves her. Sanemi then takes the chance to slash Muzan from behind, who reacts to the Hashira's attack. Sanemi tosses vials filled with flammable fluid and proceeds to set Muzan ablaze, to which the progenitor demon protests as dirty. Sanemi proceeds to insult him and say that he's the dirty one, and vows to kill Muzan. As the battle rages on, the Hashira have difficulty fighting Muzan, who proves to be too powerful for them. An exhausted Mitsuri, who is doing nothing but evade, is ultimately injured and forced out of the fight despite her desire to battle. Obanai takes notice and tries to fight harder against Muzan, trying to slice and kick his severed member away and delay his regeneration, but only making a minimal difference. Remembering his own past, he decides to fight for her sake and die to meet her in another life. Over the course of the battle, Muzan's blood begins to damage the Hashira. Giyu loses the ability to hold his Nichiren sword with only a little more than 15 minutes passing. Obanai thinks about how Muichiro may have managed to get his blade to turn bright red, and puts all of his focus and effort into his grip, turning it red. However, he starts to lose consciousness due to a lack of oxygen, barely able to avoid Muzan's attacks, and Giyu is unable to reach in time. Obanai is sent flying into the air, and manages to miraculously avoid Muzan's attack as his right arm and spinal whips are sliced through the air. Muzan is left wondering how it happened, and realizes that it's impossible for any of the Hashira to be able to cut him. He's then sliced in his left arm, and he notices the uneven cut. He narrows down the location of his three attackers, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Kanao, who he manages to barely slash at. Guillaume is surprised to see them alive, and Inosuke boasts that he has an enormous supply of Yushiro's paper, so whatever Muzan tries is useless, but he's scolded for chatting more than necessary. Obanai takes the chance to slice Muzan's arms, which regenerate slower due to his bright red blade, a fact that Sanemi points out. Zenitsu and Kanao turn invisible again and attack Muzan in unison, causing the Demon Lord to complain at the irritation of their small tricks. Guillaume is glad to have more support, and he's able to clash his axe and iron ball to heat them through friction, increasing their attack power. Guillaume then manages to smash the left side of Muzan's torso. Sanemi and Giyu follow suit and clash their blades, turning them bright red. The Demon Slayers take advantage of Yushiro's papers, allowing them to see one another, and launch a relentless assault on Muzan. Guillaume concentrates and is able to discern Muzan's unnatural biology, advising them to concentrate so they're able to see them too. Suddenly, Muzan performs an undisclosed technique, allowing him to defeat all of his attackers simultaneously, injuring them and making them crash into nearby buildings, mutilating Guillaume's left leg and Giyu's right arm in the process. Kanao Tsuyuri is left with a broken blade, healing in shock. Before Muzan can kill her, a recovered Tanjiro saves her, slicing Muzan's arm, leaving him shocked. He then takes her to a medic Demon Slayer for safety. Seeing Tanjiro's mutated face as a result of his poison, Muzan comments that he looks terrible, and wonders now who the true demon is between the two of them. Seeing Yuriichi's image in Tanjiro, Muzan feels disgust at the Demon Slayer, while Tanjiro states that it's the time they finish things. Their battle begins, with Tanjiro remembering the forms of the sun breathing he witnessed during his dream, and his father's advice. He comes to realize that the forms must be employed consecutively, one after the other, which will lead to the 13th and strongest form. Though he feels discouraged at not having Yuriichi's or his father's skill, Tanjiro nonetheless ventures to attack Muzan, who sees the ghost of his former enemy on the young Demon Slayer. However, Muzan is unimpressed, as Tanjiro's technique is far from Yuriichi's level. He sees him losing strength, and tries to secure the chance to end Tanjiro once and for all, who is weakened from exhaustion and injuries. However, Muzan is unable to land a finishing blow, much to his own surprise. He realizes that he too is growing weaker. He deduces that it must be Tamayo's doing, as he had absorbed her cells. He tries to communicate with her essence in the cells to ask what the drug she injected him with was truly about. Tamayo's essence merely mocks him, much to Muzan's irritation, who then proceeds to destroy what remains of her consciousness and scan her memories instead. Witnessing her memories, he comes to learn the truth, that Tamayo, Yushiro, and Shinobu Kocho did indeed develop a drug that turns demons back into humans, but added an additional poison with a powerful aging effect that would trigger with greater potency on its own in the case that the humanizing venom would fail, making Muzan age at a rate of 50 years per minute, and a total of 9,000 years since the beginning of the fight. With 59 minutes left before dawn, Tanjiro is able to connect all of the 12 forms and resolves himself to reuse them all faster than before. Chachamaru is then revealed to have survived Muzan's attack, as Yushiro had demonified the cat before the fight. He proceeds to nurse the injured demon slayers. He concludes that Guillaume is unable to fight any longer due to blood and limb loss, before treating the others. As Muzan grows weaker from the aging venom and the efforts of the demon slayers, scars become visible all across his body. Tanjiro realizes that those are the wounds inflicted by Yoriichi, burned down to a cellular level which had never healed despite hundreds of years, and revealing his weak points. Muzan grows horrified at the sight of his wounds, thinking that Yoriichi, a mere man who displayed no apparent hostility, was in fact the true monster between the two of them by crippling him the way he did. Tanjiro and Obanai continue their assault with 40 minutes left before dawn. Muzan grows restless and tries to escape, trampling over the corpses of the demon slayers that he had slaughtered. This enrages Tanjiro, who proceeds to throw multiple Nichiren swords at Muzan, who deflects them, reasoning that stabs are much worse than mere slashes now. Muzan is further pressured by the attacks of Tanjiro and Obanai, and with 35 minutes before dawn, Muzan deems it an unnecessary risk to continue the fight, and attempts to divide himself into lumps to escape the same way he did against Yoriichi. Tanjiro alerts Obanai of this, and panics of the idea that the two of them won't be able to destroy all of the flesh lumps. However, Muzan is unable to split, as a third drug injected by Tamayo has the property to slow down cell division. Muzan communicates with the essence of Tamayo, who gleefully alerts him that there were not 3 effects, but 4, with the 4th drug causing Muzan to cough blood, as it triggers cell destruction after the 3rd effect activated. The essence of Tamayo taunts Muzan that the death he so much feared is coming for him, further elaborating that she doesn't need to be stronger than him to kill him, as weakening him suffices, taunting him that just as he'll do anything to live, they'll do everything to kill him. Muzan ponders that normally the attacks used by demon slayers shouldn't be threatening, nor should prolonged regeneration prove tiring, but Tamayo's drugs have turned otherwise manageable attacks into lethal threats. He's unable to get fully accustomed to the toxins in his body, which are much different than those used to kill Doma. In a desperate attempt to live, Muzan opens a gaping mouth in his chest and unleashes a potent discharge against Obanai and Tanjiro, leaving the latter convulsing and stunned. With just 25 minutes left before dawn, Muzan is unable to further use his previous technique, so he resorts to lunging his arm into the ground, wrapping up Inosuke with his tentacle. Inosuke is then saved by the timely intervention of Zenitsu, who tells him that Tanjiro is still alive, begging the latter to remain alive for the sake of Nezuko, who is returning to normalcy. Muzan then swings his arm at Zenitsu, crashing him into a building. He's then saved by Inosuke, who stabs Muzan's arm, only to be swatted away by another swing in the process. Muzan is under heavy fatigue and is irritated as the demon slayers continue to stand up to fight him. Inosuke and Zenitsu continue the assault on Muzan, with the latter using his thunder-breathing 7th form, Honoi Kazuchi no Kami, managing to slash Muzan. However, the attack was more shallow than expected. Before Muzan can attack Inosuke, Tanjiro recovers and unleashes successive sun-breathing techniques, and he realizes that Muzan needs to recharge before using his shockwave attack. Muzan swats Inosuke into a building, and Tanjiro loses his footing, but Zenitsu manages to recover enough to use one last attack, but is injured by Muzan. Tanjiro seizes the chance and stabs Muzan, pinning him into a building, and is unable to use any more techniques as he had gambled it all to keep Muzan in place. Muzan then tries to kill Tanjiro, but a recovered Kanroji entangles herself into his tentacles and rips his left arm off, tearfully yelling at him to stop. Muzan's right arm and tentacles are sliced by Sanemi. Left with little choice, a bifurcation appears in Muzan's front, revealing an enormous bestial mouth trying to eat Tanjiro, who can do nothing but remain in place. To protect him, Obonai puts himself in harm's way and is mauled by Muzan, just as dawn is breaking. Muzan panics at the sight of the sun and desperately unleashes a powerful shockwave, catapulting his attackers away except for Tanjiro, who loses his left arm, but firmly stays in place, trying to turn his blade bright red. Giyu appears to aid him, and together the blade changes, injuring Muzan. In response to the sun's menace, Muzan proceeds to enlarge himself, adopting a large demonic baby form, absorbing Tanjiro in the process. As Muzan tries to get into the shade, hordes of demon slayers block his path by tossing bookshelves and ramming vehicles on him as he fights back for a way through. He is then blocked by another group of demon slayers, which pushes a bus on him to prevent his escape. Muzan soon begins burning from the sun, forcing him to fight for his life. Before he can overwhelm the lower-ranked slayers, Sanemi appears and slices his right arm, cursing the Demon Lord's persistence and demanding him to die. As Muzan tries to climb over the bus blockade, he has a chain tied to his neck by Gyome, aided by multiple slayers who pull together to bring Muzan down. As he burns further, Muzan resorts to digging as an escape maneuver, forcing Giyu, Sanemi, and Obonai to attack him to deplete his stamina. Soon, the chains break in what appears to be a hopeless moment, but Tanjiro, who remains within Muzan, is able to ignite his blade and injure him from the inside, causing Muzan to flinch from the pain as he begins disintegrating from the sun's light. As his body fully burns into ash, the once invincible Demon Lord who ruled the shadows of Japan, spreading misery and suffering for a millennia, finally lie in defeat, ending the seemingly eternal war with the Demon Slayer's victory. Muzan's defeat, while significant, would prove to be a costly victory for the Demon Slayers, leaving scores of members deceased, dozens mauled and heavily injured, and many on the verge of death. Additionally, despite Muzan's death, with his last breaths, he managed to turn Kamado Tanjiro into a demon. As Muzan transfers his blood and memories into Tanjiro's dying body, he is able to successfully revive Tanjiro as a demon, deeming him to be the king of demons so he can influence Tanjiro into conquering the sunlight and achieve his dream to end the Demon Slayer Corps. Tanjiro's poisoned eye is restored, along with his left arm, as the young Slayer rampages in a feral state against the rest of the Demon Slayers and successfully overcomes the sun. However, although the new Demon Lord was fundamentally invincible, Tanjiro's consciousness fights back for control with the help of Nezuko and Kanao, the latter of whom used the humanizing drug as a conduit for everyone's pleas to reach Tanjiro. In Tanjiro, the remainder of Muzan's will resorted to deception and psychological torture in order to convince Tanjiro to embrace his new demon heritage. But in absolute contrast to everything the demon progenitor ever stood for, Tanjiro rejects the immortality and powers of demonhood in favor of living the few years he has left in peace, as a human with everybody's company, leaving Muzan's spirit behind, putting a definitive end to his reign of terror once and for all, avenging his tragic victims' deaths, and forcing him to atone for his sins for eternity. Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.